crowd gathered at
Just show
Buckingham
up here
Palace
after
was
everything
buzzing with
you've done.
excitement, all
You
eyes on
ruined
the unmoving
everything.
royal guard in his pristine scarlet coat
You
and
heard me.
towering
Get out
bearskin
of the
hat.
way right
Toward
now.
the front, a young boy
Enough
in
is
a
enough.
wheelchair
Step
had
back
quietly
from the
made his
boy
way through the sea
immediately.
of spectators, his hands clutching the sides of his chair with a mix of nervousness and hope. Most people thought they knew exactly what to expect. A picture-perfect display, flawless footwork, and stoic soldiers refusing to break focus no matter the distraction. But then, in a completely unexpected turn, one of the guards broke ranks and began walking straight toward the child, leaving everyone stunned and speechless. It was a radiant afternoon, the kind that made the marble facade of the palace shimmer like silver in the sunlight. Tourists packed themselves tightly behind barricades, angling for the best view along the Mall. Phones and cameras were raised high, capturing every second of anticipation. In the middle of it all sat Liam, an 8-year-old boy with bright eyes and dreams as grand as the palace itself. His mother stood just behind him, trying her best to keep his view clear. Liam had adored soldiers ever since he first held a plastic figurine in his hands, and today was meant to be the moment he saw a real one, close enough to hear the crunch of gravel beneath those polished boots. But as more people arrived, the crowd thickened, rising above him like a wall. He could barely see between the legs and elbows pressing in around him. A few polite asks from his mother for people to give the boy space were either ignored or dismissed. It got worse when a loud man with a bulky camera bag began elbowing his way to the front, grumbling as he shoved past others. "Move, I need this shot," he barked, completely unfazed by the wheelchair or the mother's quiet explanation. Some nearby tourists looked uncomfortable, and a few tried to calm him down, but he brushed them off with a scoff. "I didn't come all this way to be stuck behind a kid in a chair." The tension in the air shifted. Liam's mother tried to guide him aside, just enough to avoid conflict, but the man trailed them aggressively, determined to claim the spot. A couple of bystanders moved in to block him, offering a bit of protection, but something about the moment felt different, like the entire gathering was holding its breath. The soldier ahead hadn't moved an inch, face blank, gaze locked forward. Still, it felt as though he saw everything. Whispers spread among the crowd. Would the guard continue with his legendary stillness, or had a line finally been crossed? Just when Liam seemed on the verge of giving up, the man's behavior grew bolder. He stood directly in front of the boy, raising his phone high and snapping selfies that blocked Liam's already narrow view. When that wasn't enough, he began loudly mocking the ceremony and the guards themselves, joking about their stiff posture and brushing off any attempts to reason with him. The boy, who had only wanted to see his hero up close, sat quietly as the confrontation unfolded, unaware that something extraordinary was about to happen, something no one in the crowd or in all their photos and videos could have anticipated. A few feet away, Liam clutched the small Union Jack flag he'd brought, tears brimming in his eyes. That morning, he had begged his mother, "Just one good photo, please, one where I can actually see the guard." Now that simple dream felt like it was slipping through his fingers. His mother, voice laced with a desperate kind of kindness, tried once more. "Please, my son's been looking forward to this for so long. Could you step aside for just a moment?" But the man only let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "He can see just fine if you roll him back a bit." The surrounding crowd went still, stunned by his cruelty. Uneasy glances passed between strangers. A teenage girl nearby, filming with her phone, murmured, "This is awful." The tension ratcheted higher when the man, now emboldened, began imitating the guard's rigid stance, puffing his chest and freezing in exaggerated mockery. "Look at this guy. Doesn't even blink," he jeered, stepping dangerously close to the soldier's face. The guard, unmoved, stayed fixed in his position, arms at his sides, rifle resting, expression blank. His discipline was clear. "Do not respond." But gasps rippled through the crowd as the man leaned in, making faces inches from the guard's nose, snapping photos like it was a joke. No one expected the soldier to react, but everyone was wondering what might happen if he pushed just a little further. Then, as if not satisfied, the man turned his attention back to Liam, pointing rudely and saying, "This is it, kid. This is all they do. He bent down and shoved his face close to the boy's, making Liam recoil into his mother's hand. Then, without any warning, the man kicked one of the wheelchair's wheels, just enough to jar it slightly, as if trying to force Liam out of the way. That's when the entire crowd froze. It was like the air itself went still. The guard stood only a few paces away. Surely he wouldn't intervene, that wasn't allowed. Liam's mother gripped the chair, trying to pull her son back, eyes wide with fear. The man smirked. "These guys don't break protocol, not even for a kid," he said smugly. Someone in the crowd couldn't take it anymore and shouted, "Back off." More people began moving forward, instinctively forming a loose wall around Liam and his mom. A palace official nearby was watching with visible unease. It all revolved around a single question no one dared speak aloud. Could this soldier, trained to be motionless, truly ignore what was happening right in front of him? The moment hung in the air like the beat before a thunderclap. Liam's chin quivered as he tried to hold it together, his wheelchair still slightly askew from the kick. He looked at the guard again, searching that impassive face for any flicker of kindness or strength. His mother squeezed his shoulder, whispering comfort. And then, something broke the stillness, a movement so subtle most would have missed it. The guard turned his head just slightly. Not much, just enough to see Liam and the man who had crossed every line. People noticed instantly. Someone pointed and whispered, "Did he just move?" It was the smallest shift, but it sent a ripple of energy through the entire crowd, a current of suspense that raced from one person to the next. Because if the guard had acknowledged anything at all, then this carefully controlled moment might be about to unravel. Before anyone could say more, the man lunged for Liam's little Union Jack flag, as if planning to wave it mockingly near the soldier's face. But his hand never reached it. In one fluid turn, the guard pivoted sharply off his designated line, breaking formation in a way that stole the breath from the entire audience. Gasps rang out. Phones lit up. For dozens who had come to witness perfect military precision, this sudden deviation was stunning, unthinkable even. The soldier now stood between the boy and the man, tall, unwavering, an immovable wall of authority. Tension spiked like lightning. Was this really happening? Would palace staff intervene? And how would the troublemaker react now that he found himself face to face with something far more powerful than ceremony? Conviction. Liam gazed upward, stunned, unsure whether to feel wonder or fear. The guard so close now was a towering figure of control and dignity, every detail from his polished buttons to the rifle at his side radiating discipline. The boy's mother stood frozen, her lips parted in disbelief. Meanwhile, the man who had bullied and pushed suddenly looked much smaller, his earlier arrogance leaking out in broken mutters. He tried to speak, an excuse perhaps, but the words collapsed under pressure. The guard raised his left hand slowly, palm forward, a silent command that halted everything. The entire courtyard fell into a silence so profound it was almost physical, a blanket of stillness, as if the whole city had stopped to see what came next. Then the guard took one firm step forward, sealing the gap between Liam and the man completely. Just when it seemed like things might escalate further, the guard turned his head just slightly toward Liam, and something in his eyes changed. It was the smallest shift, but it softened the steel behind his gaze, revealing a flicker of compassion beneath the uniform. No one could have predicted what he did next. Moving with calm precision, the guard lowered himself onto one knee beside the wheelchair, meeting Liam's eyes at level. His rifle remained in his right hand, still held with purpose, but his left reached gently for the boy's armrest, resting there with quiet reassurance. The entire crowd seemed to inhale at once. Even the man who had caused all the commotion stood there, frozen, his mouth slightly open. And then the guard spoke. His voice was low even, and carried the warmth of someone who truly saw the person in front of him. "Are you okay, young man?" The words seemed to echo through the courtyard. Liam gave a small nod, emotion flooding his face as he tried not to cry. For a child who had dreamed of seeing a real royal guard, hearing one speak to him, was beyond imagining. The boy's mother clutched her chest, trying to steady herself as tears welled up in her eyes. And then, as if to seal the moment forever, The guard placed his gloved hand over Liam's and gave it a soft, deliberate squeeze. The silence broke in waves, quiet whispers, muffled camera clicks, and sniffles from grown adults, now unexpectedly emotional. Even the palace official, once tense and watchful, now stood perfectly still, caught in the gravity of what had just occurred. Everyone knew the rules. These soldiers were trained to remain silent, stoic, immovable. But today, something greater than tradition had taken over. A royal guard must remain motionless at his post, refraining from unnecessary interaction with the public. Yet here was this soldier, kneeling on gravel, quietly speaking to a boy in a wheelchair, offering a moment of compassion that quietly shattered centuries-old formality. In that brief exchange, the grandeur of Buckingham Palace seemed to fade into the background, leaving just a human connection, a child's quiet awe, and a guard's quiet courage. Behind them, the man who had stirred so much tension had wilted entirely. His arrogance drained away. He mumbled something resembling an apology and began to edge backward, though no one paid him much attention anymore. All eyes, all phones, all hearts were now fixed on the boy and the guard. A few nearby onlookers dabbed at the corners of their eyes, surprised by how moved they felt. In the hush, Liam's voice came through softly. "I just wanted to see you close up. I think you're really brave." The guard responded with a subtle nod and a quiet reply, "Just doing my duty, sir." But not everyone seemed convinced this moment would pass without consequence. Another guard approached, his posture firm and his eyes scanning the crowd, then flicking to the one who had broken formation. Liam's mother stiffened, bracing for a reprimand. The kneeling guard rose slowly, straightening his shoulders, prepared to accept whatever came next. The atmosphere tensed again, silent, waiting. Then, in a gesture that melted the weight of that pause, the second guard offered a small nod of respect and stepped aside. Without a word, he allowed his fellow soldier to wheel Liam gently forward, guiding him closer to the barricade so he could see everything unfold. The crowd erupted in soft applause, rippling through the square like sunlight on water. The guard remained composed, his face unreadable, but a flicker in his eyes gave away the depth of what the moment meant to him. Liam, glowing now, held tight to his flag, his eyes dancing with joy. As the ceremony resumed, the guard made sure the boy saw every part of it, the precise march, the timed commands, the polished spectacle that had brought them there in the first place. Liam's mother, overwhelmed, whispered a thank you through tears she could no longer hold back. The soldier gave a slight, dignified nod. It said everything. Meanwhile, the disruptive man, now stripped of all bluster, tried to slip away unnoticed. But a few palace officials met him halfway and quietly escorted him from the area. The crowd didn't cheer, didn't jeer. They simply watched him leave, as if turning the page on a moment that had already been rewritten by kindness. The changing of the guard finished with exact timing, as if no rule had been bent at all. But every witness knew something extraordinary had happened. Once the final cadence faded and the ritual concluded, the guard gently escorted Liam and his mother to a calmer spot near the gates, ensuring they had a clear way forward. Tourists and Londoners alike captured the scene, uploading photos and clips with captions that echoed the same heartfelt sentiment. "Royal Guard breaks protocol to help boy in wheelchair." A moment of true honor. It felt like the entire day had been touched by something rare, a glimpse of grace beneath the gold and stone. As they prepared to leave, the guard offered one last formal salute. Liam lit up, lifting his little flag high in return. His mother mouthed the words, "Thank you," with tears still in her eyes. And then, as if the world needed restoring to order, the guard turned and resumed his stance, tall, still, and silent once more. But for everyone there, he was forever changed. The crowd that had witnessed it all broke into spontaneous applause, not for protocol or ceremony, but for a moment of quiet humanity. In that brief, unforgettable instant, Buckingham Palace didn't feel like a distant monument of monarchy. It felt personal, real, and deeply human. By that evening, footage of the encounter had spread across the internet like wildfire, gathering millions of views. Within hours, major news outlets had picked it up, commending the guard's quiet courage and compassion. Some debated whether rules had been broken, if centuries of tradition had been challenged, and what place empathy should hold within institutions known for rigidity. But beyond the debate, one message echoed across platforms and borders. This small act of kindness had moved hearts worldwide. Back at home, Liam watched the moment again and again on his mother's phone, the kind of smile on his face that didn't fade with time. When someone asked him how it made him feel, his answer was simple: "I've never felt more seen." The next morning, palace officials released a brief statement. While upholding the importance of tradition and discipline, they acknowledged that in rare moments, compassion held its own form of honor. For many, it was a refreshing reminder that even in places built on strict order, there's room for humanity. Around the world, people watched the clip not just as a viral moment, but as something more, a spark of hope that simple decency could transcend uniforms, rituals, and walls. If one soldier's choice to kneel could stir that much light, then maybe we're all capable of making more room for empathy. The crowd that left that day walked away with more than photos. They carried a story they'd tell for years. And for Liam, it wasn't just a wish fulfilled. It was proof that sometimes the most powerful memories are made when someone has the courage to step out of line for the right reason. As his wheelchair rolled softly across the palace pavement, Liam left with a little more wonder in his heart than he arrived with, because the guard known for never moving had moved for him. And what about you? Do you think the guard made the right choice by breaking formation for a boy's dream? Should compassion come before custom? Let us know what you think in the comments. If this story lifted your heart, give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a little reminder of the good in the world. And if you're ready for another powerful moment, stay with us. Because what happened when a tourist tried to outmarch a royal guard during a parade will leave you speechless. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a story that shows just how far kindness can go. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.